Hello, my lovely audience. So, this is What If Deku Was Killer Croc Part 2. I am releasing this one earlier than I normally do because, honestly, I just could not wait, not doing this. I just could not wait. I want to do another one, and this one's actually fun to do. So, yeah, I'm glad to have something fun to do. Besides, it's going to be funny what happens in the USJ, and I can't wait for that. Anyways, so, what Deku does, now, I'm going to say this, for his hero outfit is going to be a jacket and I would say probably like a gas mask or something that could wrap around his face because he doesn't want people to see how he looks. Now, mind you, he is going to be like the biggest person in the entire group of like in the entire class, really. So he gets like the most... Yeah, I would say he's pretty much the tallest, so biggest isn't really a good word. So yeah, anyways, let's get to the what if. Now, as for, what's gonna happen is this. Now I'm gonna say he doesn't actually have anything on him, like he doesn't have any jacket, he just has his face and that's about it. Now, let's get to the what if. That's his hero soon. He's just gonna have, nice pants on, like some really sturdy pants that are also good for going underwater. Now, let's get to the what if because I'm wasting time. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So, for who the heroes versus villains, exam, or test, whatever it was, Deku's gonna be paired up with Froppy. And I'm going to say that what ends up happening is this. Deku, being the most badass guy he is going to, well, I would say he would, they would go up to where the bomb was and easily encounter Bakugo and Ida. I'm going to say it's Bakugo and Ida still because obvious reasons. And the reason why they chose Froppy is because that was the only person that was willing enough to go with him and... be his partner. That was the only person. And Kendo would be in his class as well, so she would be afraid of him. Everybody's afraid of him. Mainly because of his teeth. And now, as for what's going to happen with, well, being extremely terrifying in this, is the fact that, let's see here. You know what? I'm going to say that, yeah, Deku pretty much just goes through this pretty easily. Pretty much has Froppy on his back, and they kind of just charge forward to where they think the bomb is, or where the bomb is, and immediately encounter Bakugo, who throws an explosion, but Deku just knocks him out of the way and throws him into pretty much knocks him into a wall, completely knocking him out for about a good solid 30 minutes, because it happened so suddenly, and it was just like, what? And yeah, they kind of just rush. And what ends up happening is within the 30 minutes, I wouldn't say 30 minutes. I would say about 2 minutes. Max, like 30 seconds. Actually, 30 seconds would be good. 30 seconds. And yeah, immediately Bakugo gets back up, but is kind of dizzy because how bad he just got hit. And I would say he tries to explode himself forward, and what ends up happening is Froppy kind of hits him in the face with her tongue and knocks him into a wall and drags him behind. Kind of like if you ever played Red Dead Redemption, when you lasso someone and you just drag them while you're on your horse. Basically that. And in this case, Froppy is Arthur and Deku's the horse. And yeah. So what ends up happening is he gets knocked around quite a bit. And immediately, Deku barges into where the bomb room is, and Froppy just kind of like throws Bakugo towards Ida, where Ida dodges away and immediately tries to trip up Deku, who kind of just powerhouses through it, but I would say Ida would hit him in the face, kind of blinding him for a second, so he kind of loses balance and falls. And what ends up happening is this. Froppy kind of jumps off immediately, landing on the walls, and starts dodging and attacking Ida. And when Deku gets up, he has to fight Bakugo, who is right behind them, kind of dazed out. And Bakugo throws a few explosions his way, but Deku breaks through them and punches into Bakugo's hand where it's about to make that another explosion. Now it was going to probably break his arm, but I would say it only sprains it because the explosion kind of pushed his fist back, so it would apply some cushioning, but not enough. So yeah, Bakugo's out, and mainly because he sprained his freaking arm. And it hurts like hell. And also, yeah, I'm going to say he dislocated it and sprained it. Why not? I would say Deku immediately tries to rush for the bomb, but Ida would kick him in the face. And Deku would immediately try to charge at Ida, who would then dodge out of the way, and Deku would then just use his claws to, well, his fist to kind of, well, I would say his hand really, just to smack him out of the way, to kind of just launch him towards Froppy where she would take him down. And Deku touches the bomb and picks it up. And that's how they win. Heroes versus villains. Now everybody would be amazed by their teamwork and strength that the two of them have, because one of them is insanely strong and has like their strength modifier completely like maxed out, while another has their dex modifier. Well, one's running a dex build, one's running a strength build. It's kind of how it's going. And yeah, so they're kind of amazed by the combo that they're making, but at the same time terrified that how Deku moves. Why was I going to call him Bakugo? How Deku moves and how he's moving around with his quirk. Now, as for what's going to happen next is this. Deku is going to, for the USJ, is going to be doing something fucking amazing. And by fucking amazing, I mean he is going to, well, when the USJ whole thing happens, he wouldn't really have enough time to react, so he would immediately be teleported away. But no, I would say that he would be told to help Ida get out of there, or at least, I would say defend the students. And Hirokiri would then teleport them all away, and I would say Deku would be with Froppy on the boat, with Kendo. Now, what ends up happening here is this. So, all the villains are kind of like, alright, let's do this. This guy's not that scary. He looks weak. And immediately what ends up happening is this. He immediately, he tells Froppy and Kendo to stay on the boat. And if any of them come on board, just push them back in the water if you can. And what ends up happening is this. Deku jumps into the water, and Froppy tries to tell him don't go in alone or something. And all of the villains just dive under just to try and get some dive down to get Deku. And immediately after like 5 seconds, you see some of the guys that are going for Froppy drop down into the water and go down and go down and go down. And immediately you see one guy, I would say you would see one guy burst out of the water screaming, saying, "Get me out of here!" And immediately everyone would be trying to escape and get out of the water. Some would try and jump on the boat, but they would be pushed back into the water, saying, "Please don't let me back in there." And some of them get away and go towards where the main fight is, where Aizawa is, and get the shit kicked out of them. And yeah, the ones that stayed in the water are trying to fight Deku, who is dominating in the water. And I would say Aizawa and everyone hears the screams, and they're kind of terrified to see that Deku comes out dragging having like about 10 of them on him, and he's pulling some out from behind him and drops them onto the ground. And you see some of them just floating on their backs out in the water, and you just see the most grisly scene out there. And they're all pretty much, it's just terrifying, really. And what ends up happening here is this. I would say that Shigaraki would send the Nomu out on Deku because of how strong he is, and immediately Deku would charge at the Nomu And when the Nomu punches Deku, it would immediately destroy Deku's arm. But I would say his regeneration would kick in and immediately start healing his arm. And by healing, I mean the Nomu would then take Deku's arm as when he's trying to grab onto the Nomu's face and immediately rip his arm off. And Aizawa would be horrified, everybody would be horrified to see that Deku's arm is completely gone. And Deku not feeling much of a thing because his healing factor that he has is slowly regenerating his arm. You slowly see that his arm is, what's a good way of saying it? That his arm is just slowly regenerating kind of quickly. Like the blood just kind of stopped, really. And I would say that, I'm going to say that Deku grabs his arm and kind of just starts using it as a weapon from when the Nomu ripped it off, and then basically impales his arm, his now gone arm, into the Nomu, which then, let's see here, I'm going to say, which then, let's see, would then pretty much be sticking out of the Nomu, would be going straight through and through into the Nomu, and would be limiting its movements because that it's impaled by his arm. And Deku would then be wailing down harder with just one arm, bashing into the Nomu, using his claws to scratch at it, scratching its eyes out, and then just going for its weak spot because he realizes this thing has got no form, it's got nothing, and it's kind of mindless. And I would say he explains this while he's with Aizawa, who's trying to cover him because he's only got one arm. And I would say that Aizawa would explain to him to would tell Deku to just get out of here, I can handle this. And I would say that Deku wouldn't listen and immediately tell him to, this thing isn't human. Or it was and it's not. Either way, this thing isn't normal. It doesn't work like the rest of these villains do. Do you notice this? It's blank. It's completely blank. Think about it. Have you seen it speak at all? And I would say Aizawa would come to a realization that he's right and that this thing might not be 100% there. So I would say that Deku would be given the okay to do whatever he can to stop it. And Deku would immediately start beating down into it, scratching at it, digging his claws into it, and ripping out muscle and all this other stuff out of it, and then biting down into it with his teeth. Some teeth would be loosened a little bit, but he'd still be ripping it apart with his teeth. And he then would get to where its neck is and immediately bite into it, and it would stop moving, because this is where he hits the spinal cord and detaches it, causing it to go limp. And that's when Deku bashes into the back of its head, breaking the spinal cord completely. And I would say that he would also prevent its blood from circulating, which would stop it from being able to regenerate properly. And I would say that he's wailing down on it with just one arm, completely bloody by this thing. And I would say that the Nomu has pretty much stopped moving. And the reason why he's this strong would probably be because it's all about form in the end. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how big you are, or how small you are. As long as your form is good, you could take down anything. And that's what Deku's got, form. And he punches down into it and starts beating down on it even harder and harder. And I would say that there's a kind of a change in Deku's eyes. And I would say that is when he goes above and beyond, and his arm, he kind of, let's see here. I would say he kind of just takes his arm that's been impaled in it and stabs it into the back of its neck, and kind of just leaves it there and just is tired now and just kind of walks off and collapses right by Aizawa. And I would say that's when All Might would appear and see the destructive nature and see his student, his disciple, really, because I would say it's like who he's thinking about giving One for All to. And he sees Deku on the ground, and he sees the Nomu on the ground, and he sees his arm gone and impaled into the Nomu. And he then gets an explanation from Aizawa that thing ripped his arm off, and Deku used it to beat that thing. And I would say that the Nomu would get up slowly and shakingly, and would just immediately get beaten down by All Might. Because at this point, his the person he's been thinking of giving his quirk to has just lost his arm. He's just been crippled and might not even become a hero. He is now... All Might is at his breaking point. Someone that he saw as a little bit more than a student, someone that he could really feel a bond or something with, has now just been completely and utterly just almost beaten, really. But still, he went ahead and fought the Nomu, but showed such will. And I would say All Might's at a really pissed point, if you know what I mean. If you understood what I was saying. And immediately, I would say All Might would go wailing down on this thing and just go 100% beating down on this thing and completely killing it. Now, a lot of the people would be afraid to go near Deku, who would be waking up now, seeing All Might, and immediately would get up and try to help All Might, but would be told to lay down and rest by Aizawa, who has a worried look on his face. The blood may have stopped, but it doesn't really mean much, because it still looks bad. And I'm going to say that what ends up happening is this. When All Might is completely beaten this thing down, he's also taking down the other villains, and I would say Hidakiri and Shigaraki get out of there because they know that the Nomu's beaten. They know that they can't do anything. And that is when they get out of there, and All Might is kind of just tired, and that's when the other teachers come. They seal him off, preventing him from being seen by everyone else. And what ends up happening here is this. Recovery Girl sees Deku beaten badly and has his arm ripped off. And they think that they could probably reattach it, but the arm is already decaying at a pretty rapid rate. And they can't really do much. So Recovery Girl tries to do the best she can and does the Granny Kiss and heals him up. And by miraculously, you slowly see within the span of an hour, you see his arm regenerate. She would basically, do as many of her, use her quirk as many times as she can on Deku just to try and help him with the pain and everything, thinking that he's in horrible pain because his arm's been ripped off, and immediately just see that his arm regrows. And that's when everyone around him is just stunned that someone, like, he's able to regenerate arms, like his limbs, he can regenerate them. And All Might, I would say, hear about this, and he'd be happy. He'd be glad that nothing bad is going to happen, and realizes that if he gave him his quirk, the odds of him turning into a monster don't really matter, because he knows Deku will become strong either way. And I'm going to say that they give it a week. They basically take a week off from the students and everything, just so they can take a break from this whole events. And some of them can just, relax and everything and de-stress. And what ends up happening is this. Deku, he is sat down in the infirmary for the first time in a while. And I would say that he is basically about to be given One for All. And the reason is, All Might would say that he was hesitant at first because he would be afraid to give something that would harm him than do any good. And I think Deku would say, I would have been able to take it either way. You didn't need to be afraid. I would have been able to at least deal with it. And I would say that All Might would have been happy to hear those words. And what ends up happening next is this. Deku Deku would well, he would pretty much just give him the hair strand right away, and Deku would consume it, and by the next day, Deku is grown. He's shot up in growth, and his muscle has a bit expanded a bit more, just a tiny bit more, to where he's kind of like a fully grown. Well, he's pretty much fully grown now, yeah, because I would say that this quirk that he has accelerates his puberty and everything, and makes his growth accelerated to where he would be. Right now, he's as tall as his max height, which is 10 feet tall. He's 10 foot, and I would say that when he comes back, everyone's kind of shocked to see that he's grown. And I'm going to say that Deku, his muscles have bulged a bit more, and his teeth and his facial structure has changed a little bit more, resembling more of a reptile or crocodile. His eyes are having a nice, more yellow tint, and his pupil is turned into more of a reptilian line than an actual ball. And what ends up happening here is this: people are more afraid of him, but they're actually kind of glad to see that he's okay. And I'm going to say for what ends up happening next is this. I would say that Aizawa would also thank Deku when he sees him, because if he didn't show up, even if he got injured, he would have probably have had to take that thing on his own and would have been completely annihilated. And I'm going to say that Deku, well, his regeneration has actually increased to take where normally if he lost his arm, he would have to take about a month. Now it only takes about, I would say it would take a week. So then it would be, sum it up, it would be taking him a day to regrow his arm. That'd be it. A day. And what ends up happening is this. Deku, now the most badass kid there, I would say he learns full cowling pretty, kind of gets the hang of full cowling, or at least gets, I wouldn't say he would learn it yet. I'm going to say for the internship he'll learn it. Now, as for what's going to happen next is this. Deku, for the sports festival, he is going to, do something badass. He's going to be the one to give a speech. And what his speech is this. I may look like a monster, but we all have a monster inside us. Mine's just, no. I'm going to say that, it's Bakugo would do it. Why not? And I'm going to say that what ends up happening here is this. For the person that's going to be in Deku's cavalry, just I'm going to get that over with quick, is going to be Froppy, and I'm going to say... yeah, we'll get to it when we can. For the, whole running part where they have to go to the tightrope thing, and then the robots, and then the landmines, I'm going to say that Deku kind of just rushes through it and runs right through it. And he would have a lot more speed than he used to, and he would then put a lot of One For All into his legs and not really control it too much, so it would kind of hurt his legs, but it wouldn't be as bad, because he'd be destroying his muscles, but at the same time, wouldn't be destroying them because he has got pretty big muscles, so he'd probably rush through it and only be using about 50%, because I would say that All Might would say try and control the muscle, because how much you put into it, because it can destroy your limbs. And I would say that Deku only puts in about 50%. He tries to only use 50% in each leg. And what ends up happening is this. What ends up happening is Deku, no one really notices that he's running he's running with the lines on his legs because the pants are covering it. And I'm going to say that Deku, what ends up happening is this. He rushes through it and pretty much just jumps over the canyon and people are kind of amazed by his prowess and what he's able to do. And I would say that only, I think that, as I would say, that he's probably just broken through with his quirk and gone above and beyond because of a recent incident that happened in the school. And all he's seen so far is him run in a straight line, not with like obstacles in the way, and him swim. That's about it. Because how he is. And I'm gonna say that Deku would, I'm gonna say that he would, for the robot one, I would say he just dashes through it. And when he gets to the landmines, I'm gonna say that he makes it towards, let's see. I would say he pretty much just runs through them, really. Doesn't care. And if it blows him up, it just blows him up. He just kind of endures it. And people would be amazed by his absurd, strength, because he's going through these landmines and clearing a path for everyone else to make it. And he's just kind of been carving his own path through the mines. And I would say that Todoroki, Bakugo, the ones that would be in front, are kind of like right behind him because of the explosions that he's creating with the landmines. And I would say that they kind of get like launched like from each other, like kind of away from each other, and get hit by more landmines. And yeah, so everybody's pretty much just following behind him as they like kind of try to fill the spots that he's pretty much made. And I'm gonna say that Deku gets first place. Now, as for what's going to happen with the Cavalier, it's going to be Froppy, Deku, and I'm going to say, trying to remember everybody in the class. I'd say it's going to be the guy with the beak, because I can't remember his name. It's blanking on me. With the shadow quirk. I'm trying to remember, but I can't. I'm going to say it's him because he would probably understand that people look at him weirdly and would pretty much understand where Deku's coming from when it comes down to how he is how he looks as a monster. Like, he would probably be in the team. And also, I'm going to say the guy that talks to animals. Or, yeah, the guy that talks to animals, because he looks weird as all hell, and I think the people that they don't look normal would be in his group, because they understand that looking like that, you get stared at, you get called a monster, you get called all this, and you don't look right, really. You're not going to be having the light side of your life and all that. You're always going to be taking the harder part, if that makes sense. And I'm going to say that Deku would be holding up most of it, while the guy with the talks to the animals would be holding up the back. And they'd pretty much be having themselves in a corner, with Froppy on the top with the band. And I'm going to say, I'm going to say that, I'm going to say instead of the, what would you call him? The guy that talks to animals, I'm going to say Araka is going to be there, because she never got to repay him for saving her, so this might as well be it. And Deku, I would say they would get made like a little bit more lighter, so Deku would be I would say that they would all be in like kind of a corner where they're kind of just made more lighter, and the whole time they're going to be doing is this. When they're in danger, he's going to launch Froppy up in the air with most of his strength, and she's going to be kind of having 0G, and then everyone's going to break from formation and attack. And what ends up happening here is this. Froppy would use her tongue to kind of like hold herself up still with by hitting Deku's back and keeping herself afloat. And that's pretty much what's going to happen the entire time. And they're going to accumulate a lot more points because I would say some people would try and get close and they would be taking their, breaking their formation using a Deku as pretty much a bulldozer to kind of just ram through everything and then just grab the bands, and they would accumulate way more. And then they would instantly get back in a formation where she would land properly and be able to, basically, just get back into the, being held up. So, yeah, it would pretty much be that she'd basically be this would be an overpowered strat. Now, as for what's going to happen against the 1v1s, I'm going to say Shinso, if that's his name. He would probably understand from just looks that Deku's had it harder than him, but would still say that you don't understand. I was never able to talk to anyone. And I would say that Deku would say, I was never able to really go out and actually enjoy myself because I was always told I'm a monster and I should just go die. And that's it. I would say that they would both have their own kind of isolation that they had to go through as kids, and how one was feared and another was just isolated when no one would talk to him. And I would say Shinso would try to use I'm gonna say that I would say no, I'm gonna say that Deku beats him and then says that really. Yeah, he beats him and then says, well, I've never had to I was always isolated by by looks. Everyone called me a monster and all that. So you don't even want to be I would say everybody has it worse, and especially me. I've had it worse than you would imagine. And he would even say to him after the fight that even his own mother doesn't even look at him in the eyes because she's afraid. And I think that would hit Shinso deep because he would understand that even his family was able to look at him in the eyes, even help him out, but he never really had that. And he still wants to admire to become a hero. And that kind of just puts his strength above all. Now, for what's going to happen with Todoroki and Deku, I'm going to say that Deku uses all of his strength in one punch and completely destroys his arm, but also pushing Todoroki's ice to the brink where he's kind of just on the edge on the first fight, like on the first punch. And yeah, and he has to go above and beyond with his ice to kind of like prevent him from using the attack again, but Deku does it again and he gets his arm back in about, I would say, kind of just pretty much destroyed the muscles in his arm. Regrowing an arm is different than, so I'm going to say that he just pretty much just his arms are kind of just numb, but that's about it. And I'm going to say that Todoroki gets that speech about it's your quirk, don't let anyone else tell you it's not. And immediately I would say that he would use fire on Deku, which then would dry up his skin, where Deku would then use both of his hands to make a kind of a clap and just kind of smack him out of the ring, hitting him with basically what's a good way? What was the word? Fuck. Well, pretty much with a sonic boom almost. With well, you know what I mean. Basically just hits him with just pretty much the power that would resonate or whatever it is. I can't remember. Yeah, it'll come to me. Basically, he claps his hands and does what the Hulk does. And yeah, just pretty much launches him out with all the fire disappearing and everything. And yeah. So yeah. Now, I would say after the fight, Deku would immediately, it would take about like an hour for the next fights, and immediately I would say that Deku's arms would be back in one piece, with Recovery Girl providing some treatment, of course. And I'm going to say that Deku douses himself in water because he knows this fight's going to be insane. So he comes up on the stage soaking wet. And I would say that Bakugo charges at him with explosions and explodes here and there, just trying to dodge his attacks. And I would say that Deku gets a hold of him once and throws Bakugo by the arm, which then dislocates his arm out of the ring, where basically Bakugo would then try to get himself back in the ring with one arm exploding it forward and trying to get back in the ring. And then trying to pop his arm back in, Deku takes this moment to charge at him and kind of feint it. He kind of feints his charge to have Bakugo get out of the way, where Deku then just hits him right in the face with a kind of a bitch slap, and just slaps him across the face and hits him out of the ring and wins. Now, I'd say that basically Shigaraki that would be watching this be wanting to have him kind of villainized and try and turn him into a villain. And I would say that Deku would have some bandages on his arms because of how bad the damage he did to his arms was. So yeah, he would win, and for the hero name he gets, he would actually have some problems with coming up with a hero name for when he does the internships. And I'm going to say that what ends up happening is this. He talks to Froppy about it, and I would say that she would say just go with what you think is right, and would even talk to him about what was something that turn one of your a weakness into a strength, maybe, or turn something that people would call you into a strength. And the one thing he thought of was tick-tock, here comes the Croc. And he would then use the hero name Croc. And yeah, his hero name is going to be Croc. And yeah. Now, as for the internships, he's going to learn full cowling, because All Might would think that he would need to learn it, and he would go to Gran Torino. Now, I love the name Gran Torino, because if you don't know the movie Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood, oh my god, what are you doing with your quarantine life? Go watch it. Go watch Gran Torino. It's such a good movie. Oh my god, I love Clint Eastwood movies. But yeah. So, that's me. I think Gran Torino looks a little bit like Clint Eastwood, so like a superhero version of Clint Eastwood. Now, I'm going to say that Deku learns full cowling in a little bit of a different way. He's not going to be bouncing around. He's going to be using it to enhance his strength and durability. Shockwave, that's what the word was for when he clapped his hands in it. Anyways, Shockwave. So yeah, for when he goes to Gran Torino, he's going to be learning how to use full cowling to increase his strength and durability and movement. And what ends up happening is this. I'm going to say that he picks up on a new thing where Gran Torino would like him to try and utilize something like his arms. And mainly because of the fact that he could probably do better as digging than he would be as tunneling through something. Because he saw how he did in the hero exam, and I would say that he would say that he would be better at doing kind of like a tunneling technique, maybe dig a hole. And I would say that he would take him to some kind of junkyard or whatever, and tell him to kind of dig a hole through there or something like that, if that makes sense. Now, as for what is going to happen with and also, if you can't hear, it is raining outside. So I am getting kind of distracted by the rain. Alrighty. So let's see here. Deku is going to, with Stain, he's going to encounter him pretty much the same knowing Ida is going to do that. And even though he isn't really close to him, he would still hear about it. And I would say that he would not only own a phone because he would just break his phone. So I would say that he owns one. It's just a lot bigger than it should be. Like a lot bigger, like an iPad size phone. Oh, maybe. Let's see here. If I had big hands like that, let's see. I'd say it'd be smaller than an iPhone XL. So, yeah. So yeah, he would be. He definitely would have thick fingers though, so that's a problem. So he would use his claws just to, hit everything. Now as for Stain, yeah, he would call up. I would say. Let's see. I would say he would call up. I would say he wouldn't have anyone to call up. I would say he would just call. Actually, I would say he texts All Might to try and come over and try and help him out. And I'm gonna say that he pretty much just defends Ito the entire time and protects him and everything. And I would say Stain would try to slash into his skin and try and cut him, but it would not work. So he would just be slicing and trying to dice him, but it would just nothing would cut him. Like, there would be bits where it would just be slicing the thin layer of skin, and it would just be another layer of skin, but that would be it. That'd basically just be it. And Deku would just hit him back with a punch, destroying the blades that he's holding. And then, yeah. I would say that he would then hit him really hard in the leg, which then would launch him into a wall. And I'm going to say that he takes him down and makes a deal with the hero that's already knocked out right there and say that it was all him that took out this villain. And I would say that All Might would come around and would see that Deku restrains Stain, and immediately I would say also, I think when he first encounters Stain, I would say he would say, "Tick tock, here comes the Croc." Look, someone in the comments said in the last video that, oh, I can only imagine him saying, "Tick tock, here comes the Croc." Dude, you were on spot. Like, you were on the target. I was going to do that either way. Oh, man. And, yeah, he pretty much... No, I'm going to say he saves it for later, but... No, he would do it. He would totally do it. He would say, "Tick tock, here comes the Croc." And what ends up happening is this. Deku restrains Stain, and also a bunch of other heroes come around, and the hero that was taken was basically getting hit by Stain a lot. It was about to be killed. Would take the credit. No, I'm gonna say Endeavor would probably now. Fuck it, All Might would come around and be taking the credit for him taking down the villain. So there's that. So yeah. And I would say that the hero would thank Deku, and Ida would thank Deku, and yeah, really that'd be about it. Now as for what's going to happen with the rescuing hero thing and all that, I'm going to say Deku does something interesting and just kind of bulldozes through the pipes and completely destroys them to reach All Might and shows them what he's learned. He uses his claws to kind of like dig and, I'm going to say he just digs a hole to where All Might is and quickly gets to him faster than anyone else can because he could smell him and he would know where exactly he is. And I'm going to say that, let's see here. I'm going to say that Deku, I'm going to say that he would, he'd pretty much be getting a lot of spotlight because he would also have helped Ida. So I think Ida would be indebted to him and would probably spread word to the rest of the class that he is not a bad guy. That he is actually more of a, he's not a monster, he's a person, and he's more gentle than you would think. So yeah, I would say that some people would look at him with kind of like a fearful look sometimes, but not entirely. So it's going to take a bit longer for them to get used to Deku. But yeah. So yeah. Anyways, have a good day and a good night. The rest will be to be continued. But yeah, have a good day and a good night. Peace out, and have a good one.